Welcome. I'm Mary and I hook books. I have been away for a while. I have been working 6 days a week, so I have not been as productive reading or crocheting as I normally would be, but I've paid off two of my credit cards and I'm buying nutritious groceries. So overall, it has been a win. I haven't been keeping up with the theme of crocheting something related to every book that I've read, but I have had some fun things that I've made lately that I wanted to share with you, and I thought since I have not updated anyone in the last 6 months and I need to tell people about great books that I've been reading, I would update and give you guys my top and bottom books that I've read in the last 6 months. So here we go. If you are one of my former students, you know what these mean. It is time for pathology class again. I make little crochet prizes for games that we play in class because it's a very difficult class to stay awake in. And these are one of the ones that I make up. They're little jellyfish or octopuses or octopods, octopi, and they just go crazy for these, and they're so easy to make. I love them. I probably will put up a tutorial for them at some point if I have not already. A friend said, "Hey, you remember that thing you made me a couple years ago? I really wish I had it in different colors." And I don't actually know what she was talking about, but she described the fabric to me or the yarn to me, and I think I might have figured out what to make her for Christmas. So I made two shawls for her. This one is just a corner to corner shawl. I used this yellow perfect phasing Halo-Rama that I heard is discontinued, but it's so soft. Oh my gosh. And she tells me that it's very warm, the last one that I made her. The last one I made her was with the Karen latte cakes, but I think that those have also been discontinued. So maybe it's something about the fuzzy yarn. It's very hot and then it's not. I made her another shawl in Halo-Rama, and this one is just a half granny square repeated over and over. It was really simple to make. It was really great to just decompress and not have to follow a really complicated pattern. But I love the colors, I love the texture, and I think she's really gonna like how it turned out. And at my new work, I have two polyamorous work wives. So for Christmas, I made them both hooded scarves. And I don't think it's going to work with my space buns, but this one is for one of my work wives who is just dark and gothic but also fabulous. So I don't know if the camera will pick up that it is made with Big Twist Twinkle, which has a little bit of sparkle because, you know, he's dark and gothic but also fabulous. My other work wife or work bestie loves the color green, so I found this cool hooded scarf pattern with these crocodile scales that I think is really neat. And then it has a zigzag pattern to the scarf, which also is kind of a fun little bit of texture. So she said her favorite colors are olive and kind of avocado, and the color is called olive drab. So I hope I got it right because I am terrible with picking colors for people. And so far this year, I have read 100 books. My 100th book was Foe by Ian Reid, and I liked this one. It gave me kind of classic sci-fi vibes, but it was marketed as like a thriller, and I didn't think there was much thrilling about it. Kind of a mystery, and it felt like we went a long way to get to a huh at the end. So it was okay. I think I ended up giving it 3 or 3.5 stars. If the premise interests you, it sounded more dangerous and scary than it actually ended up being. This isolated couple, sometime in future agriculture America, is visited by a theoretical space agency that wants to send her husband to space. And they don't know if it's real or not. So, if it intrigues you, I would say pick it up, but it's not one that I'm going to rave about. I also had the bottom of my list is a couple DNFs, which made me really sad because the third book in the Dark Tower trilogy was my favorite so far. I really liked that one. So I was really excited when Wizard and Glass came out or came up at my library. And I got, I think, a third of the way through, and I love a backstory. I love a prequel. I love an origin story. But the extended flashback really lost me, and I was really fighting to keep going, so I eventually just DNF'd it. And Stephen King and I have had a rough year because I also read Hearts in Atlantis, and I really liked the first story. It did intertwine with The Dark Tower, which is why I picked it up to begin with. But then there were other short stories, and I just didn't care about this college student who was going to college instead of going to Vietnam. Like, I just couldn't care. And that's very weird because normally Stephen King is pretty good at character work. So I DNF'd that one too. I also read Rapture Season by Eric Micah Holmes, and I just did not like the characters in this one. I love a cult, which is why I was excited about it, but I didn't connect with anything. The culty part wasn't that interesting. It didn't draw me in. It wasn't elaborated on enough, so I gave that one 2 stars. I also gave 2.25 to Euphoria by Lily King, and I got to the end and I was like, what? Why? Why was this ending? Why did we just do any of this? Now for the good news. These are the top 10 of my first 100 books that I've read this year. So, first is an honorable mention because it is a reread for me, which is really rare. But I read this book a long time ago on my Kindle, and now Apple TV has a show, and everyone is talking about it. And I gave it 5 stars back in the day, and I wanted to see if it still held up. And that is Wool by Hugh Howey. I read the entire series, and I think the first and second ones were the best. The third one I remember being okay. At the time, they didn't have audiobooks, and now the audiobook has come out, so I listened to that, and I really liked it. I gave it 5 stars again. I think it still holds up. And my number 10 selection for my top 10 of my first 100 is Come As You Are by Emily Nagoski. And this is a nonfiction about, for me, the big points were stress and your sex life, and how your brain can help or hinder you from enjoying yourself, not just in bed, but in life. And I gave that one 4.75 stars. Number 9 is Salt, Fat, Acid, Heat, The Elements of Good Cooking by Samin Nosrat. And I really like this. I want to get a physical copy. I used to love cooking. I don't do it very much because my kitchen is really small now and I am just so busy. So I am lucky if I throw something in the slow cooker to have something for the week. But it was really informative. I normally don't like to hear too much in my nonfiction about the author's life, just give me the information. But I felt like this author had a really good balance of personal stories and letting us know the information about the elements of good cooking. So, if you are at all interested in home cooking, I would definitely recommend this one. And then number 8 was One Fell Sweep by Alona Andrews. And I have loved these books so far. I thought they would be a little bit smuttier, but there's not really been any spicy stuff until the third book. And it's just such a cool blending of sci-fi and fantasy, and it really leans on the idea that if you don't, it's an Arthur C. Clarke quote that I will remember when I stop filming, but it's something like, if you don't understand the science, everything's going to be magic. So if you don't understand how it works, of course it looks like magic. And that's how they explain the fantasy elements. So it's just so cute. And I love the family dynamic. I love the main characters. So that one also another 5-star. And number 7 is going to be a huge surprise for anyone who knows me. It is The Soulmate Equation by, who wrote that? Christina Lauren. And I gave this 5 stars. I love the premise behind it. I love the characters. I love their relationship. I loved the climax of this book. This is just fantastic. It is everything I ever wanted in a romance. So if you are burned out by toxic people in romances that shouldn't really be together and really need to go get therapy, I would recommend picking up The Soulmate Equation. Number 6 on my list is Gleanings by Neil Shusterman, and I loved The Arc of the Scythe. I read the first 3 books pretty much back to back, which is not something that I did at that point, and it's actually something I don't really do now. That's one of my goals, is to get better at reading series and finishing series. But this is the 3.5 book. It's a collection of short stories, and oftentimes short story collections are kind of all over the place. There's going to be some great ones, there's going to be some mediocre ones, there's going to be some really forgettable ones, but I really liked all of these stories. And I even picked up a new non-curse that I can use in class. When someone does something, I can shout, "Godfried Daniels!" And that just makes me happy. Number 6 was Bite Me by Christopher Moore. And this was the 3rd book in the Love Story trilogy. It was originally written as just a standalone, then he added 2 more books. I love Christopher Moore's writing style. He can be a little bit problematic at times, just a couple little things. But I remember the quote from Lovecraft Country: "Books are like people. They don't have to be perfect for you to love them." And the 3rd book was probably the least problematic of anything in this series or anything that he's written. Not that it's overly problematic, but every so often I'm just like, ooh, yeah. But it was fun. I love these characters. I especially love the Emperor of San Francisco. I would die for the Emperor of San Francisco and his brave knight doggies. They are so wonderful. And the ending, the action, the comedy, it all did it for me. So another 5-star for me. Number 4 is another non-fiction. This is Going to Hurt: Confessions of a Junior Doctor by Adam Kay. And I have not seen the TV series that was apparently made based on this book, but it was such a good combination of comedy and heart. It was, yeah, Scrubs and Grey's Anatomy, and the best of everything in between. So another 5 star for a nonfiction for me. And then number 3 was fan fiction, a mem noir by Brent Spiner. And I am a little bit of a Trekkie, so hearing Brent Spiner narrate the audiobook along with some guest stars like Jonathan Frakes, it was just so fun writing fan fiction about your own life that's loosely based on a real thing that happened to you. It was just so cute. So if you are a Trekkie or you love fan fiction, or you just want something, again, very quirky, that's kind of my style. I like quirky with a little bit of action. I would pick that one up too. And then number 2, I got a physical copy because I liked it so much. It was one of the first books that I read this year, and that is Sign Here by Claudia Lux. And work is hell. So what happens when you go to work in hell? I loved the heart. I loved the absurdity to it. It was just so much fun. And then my number one choice, or my number one book that I read so far this year, was House on the Cerulean Sea. And I loved these characters. I loved the representation. It just had so much heart. And the characters were so quirky and unique. And it made me feel alive again. I absolutely loved this book by TJ Klune. So I hope that you pick up some or all of my top 10 because I would recommend these to pretty much anyone. Of course, the ones that are further along in the series might be a little bit more difficult to just pick up, but Gleanings does stand on its own. And the entire love story trilogy is just, it's so fun. Christopher Moore is just a really funny, quirky, witty writer. So that was what I have been up to for about the last 6 months since I last posted. I hopefully will be able to post a little bit more. If everything goes well, I'll be stepping back a little bit at one of my jobs, so I'll have a little bit more time. And I've kind of adapted to my current schedule, so I'm not exhausted all the time anymore. But I really appreciate you coming back to see me. I will leave the patterns for my crochet stuff in the description box below. I hope you have a wonderful holiday weekend. I hope your travel goes well if you are traveling for Thanksgiving. And I hope you have a wonderful holiday season. And remember to keep your head up and breathe.